Hi and welcome to episode 5 of the Objective Secured Codex review of Codex Eldari 2022. My name's Mike, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Wraith constructs. If you would like to check out any of the previous videos, episodes 1 through 4 are all available within the playlist. You can check out episode 1, the Aspect Warriors, episode 2, the Corsairs, episode 3, the Inari, or episode 4, the Psykers, in the playlist attached. But for today, let's take a look at the Wraith constructs. Wraith constructs are something that has changed over the years quite a bit. Back in Rogue Trader, we had the original Eldar Dreadnought, the Spirit Warrior, and then the Ghost Warrior assassin droids. These days, we now have plastic kits for all of our Wraith constructs, and we now have a very different look on all 4 of them. Before we get into those units, if you want to check out the Hemlock Wraith Fighter, it's actually in episode 4 under the Psykers tab. For today, though, we're going to start with our 4 Wraith constructs. The Wraith Guard are the quintessential Wraith construct when most people think about them. This is a unit of 5 to 10 models with a movement of 5, a weapon skill and ballistic skill of 3+, a strength 5, toughness 6, 3 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 9, and a 3+ save. Every model starts with a Wraith Cannon, and they can upgrade their Wraith Cannons to D-Scythes, but it is an all-or-nothing swap. The Wraith Cannon now has a range of 18 inches, up from 12 in previous editions. It is an Assault 1, Strength 10, -4 AP, D3 plus 3 damage, with unmodified wound rolls of 6, inflicting 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. The D-Scythe has also changed, going up in range from 8 inches to 12, changing its profile from Assault D3 to Assault D6. It is now Strength 10, -4, 1 damage, and Blast instead of auto-hitting. And again, unmodified wound rolls of 6 inflict 1 mortal wound on the target, in addition to any normal damage. Like all Eldar units, at least the Craftforged ones, we get Strands of Fate as their ability, however we do not have Battle Focus. It should be noted that these units, generally speaking, just don't get Battle Focus. There are ways of giving it to them, but as a general rule, they don't have it. Like the Hemlock Wraith Fighter we spoke about in the last episode, these have Wraithbone Form, which is a -1 to the damage characteristic of attacks allocated to them, and that flows through all the Wraith constructs we're going to talk about today. The Wraith Guard also have a special rule called War Construct. Models in this unit can make attacks with ranged weapons even while the unit is in engagement range, but each model can only make attacks against enemy units they are within engagement range of. In such circumstances, models in this unit can target an enemy even if other friendly units are within range of the same enemy unit. Now, this probably deserves an FAQ early in the piece, because at the moment with a Wraith Cannon, it makes total sense. It just means you can shoot in combat when you are charged. However, with a D-Scythe, because they have the Blast ability, it means that you can't actually fire them in combat because you are limited by the core rules of Blast. Now, there is an argument to say specific overrules general, and we have a specific exception under War Construct. However, nothing in War Construct allows you to get around the Blast rule. So, at the moment, if you have a D-Scythe and are charged, War Construct does not allow you to shoot in combat. Released in 6th edition, we now have Wraith Blades as an option as well. Their profile looks very similar to the Wraith Guard in that it is identical, with 5 to 10 in the unit, a movement of 5, weapon skill ballistic skill 3+, strength 5, toughness 6, 3 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 9 and a 3+ save, and every model is equipped with Ghost Swords. These Ghost Swords can be swapped for 1 Ghost Axe and 1 Force Shield at a 5-point premium. The Ghost Swords are Strength +1, -3 AP, 1 damage, but you make 2 additional attacks when you fight, which brings them up to 5 attacks at Strength 6 -3, which is pretty reasonable. The Ghost Axe pushes them to Strength 7, -3, and flat 2 damage, and the Force Shield gives them a 4+ invulnerable save. As mentioned, they have Wraithbone Form and Strands of Fate, which is common with all Wraith constructs, but they're their only rules. Now, these used to have a rule that when they charge, they got an extra attack. That's now just been built into their profile. Unfortunately, in the game at the moment, I think 99% of the time if you see Wraith Blades, you'll see them with Ghost Axes. That's mainly due to the 2 damage and the Strength 7 combination. However, I think the Ghost Sword variant with strength 6 and 5 attacks at -3 probably has some legs. It would require support from a Farseer at the very least to give them fortune to keep them around, because despite being toughness 6, 3 wounds and a 3+ save, they're probably going to struggle to survive heavy weapons that will be directed at them. So a blob of 10 with axes and shields with protect and fortune is going to be a brick that's in the middle of the table that's going to be hard to ignore, whereas I think the Ghost Sword squads in 5s in Wave Serpents potentially make some really solid assault troops that don't necessarily need support and might not take the brunt of fire if you do have that Ghost Axe unit. Perhaps my favourite of the 4 Wraith constructs we're talking about today is the Wraith Lord. He's been moved to an elite slot now, his profile's been improved, and his points have been brought down. He is a movement of 8, a weapon skill and ballistic skill of 3+, strength 7, toughness 8, 9 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 9, and a 3+ save. He comes with 2 shuriken catapults, wrist mounted, and his Wraithbone fists. He can swap his shuriken catapults for Eldari Flamers, and he can be equipped with a Ghost Glaive, which is his giant sword. He can also be equipped with up to 2 heavy weapons, which can be any combination of Eldari Missile Launcher, Bright Lance, Scatter Laser, Shuriken Cannon, and Star Cannon. Talking specifically about his weapons, the Ghost Glaive has 2 profiles, a Crushing Strike and a Sweeping Blow. The Sweeping Blow is strength 7, -2 damage, but you do make 2 hit rolls instead of 1 for each attack. While the Crushing Strike is strength 9, -4, and D3+3 damage. This makes him much more reliable in combat, and with those 8 attacks, able to actually clear himself if he does get swamped with little Gribblies. If you choose to go without the Ghost Glaive, his Wraithbone Fists are still strength 7, -3, and flat 3 damage, so he's no slouch and he can still fight to some degree. At 100 points base without the Ghost Glaive, just with the 2 catapults, and going up to probably 170-ish points by the time if you upgraded everything, he's actually priced pretty well. My favourite build so far has been double Shuriken Catapult, 2 Shuriken Cannons, and the Ghost Glaive at 135 points. He puts out 10 shots eternal with the Shuriken rule, and fights reliably in combat, all for a very modest price. Like all the other Wraiths, he has Strands of Fate and Wraithbone form. It should be noted he does have the core keyword, as do the Wraithguard and the Wraith Blades, meaning that he can be affected by things like Fortune, by things like Guide and Doom. He is something that I think you'll see quite a few of. He's a strong choice, but he probably needs to be built around. The last choice in the Wraiths is the Wraith Knight, the only super heavy choice that the craft will gain. The Wraith Knight was introduced in 6th edition and has seen a couple of different incarnations over the years. At the moment, I still feel like the Wraith Knight is overpriced. However, he has seen some significant improvements. He is a movement of 12, which degrades to 10, and then 8 with his profile, which is at 11 wounds and at 5 wounds respectively for those degrades. He is weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+, and then 4+, and then 5+. Strength and toughness of 8, 22 starting wounds, 5 attacks, a leadership 9, and a 3+ save. He starts the game with a Titanic Ghost Glaive, Titanic Feet, and a Scatter Shield. Now, the Ghost Glaive in this version is a strength +6, -4, flat 6 damage for his strike, or he can choose to make a sweep attack, which is strength 8, -3, 2 damage, but 3 attack rolls instead of 1. I don't think you can go too wrong with the Ghost Glaive. It makes him suitably terrifying in combat. At strength 14, he's wounding most things in the game, or the toughest things in the game on 3s and everything else on 2s. At -4, he's essentially ignoring just about every saving throw, and at flat 6 damage, he basically kills whatever he swings at. The sweep attack is no slouch either. At strength 8, -3, 2 damage. It's going to scare a lot of units, and he just wipes them out wholesale. The Scatter Shield now gives the Wraith Knight a 4+ invulnerable saving throw, which is a significant up from its previous version, where it only gave a 5. And if you are going to swap that Ghost Glaive out, you do still keep your Titanic Feet, which are a strength user, -2 AP, 2 damage, but you only get 5 attacks with them. The Ghost Glaive can be swapped out for either a Heavy Wraith Cannon or a Sun Cannon. The Shield can be swapped out for a Heavy Wraith Cannon, and you can also equip up to 2 of the following shoulder-mounted weapons, which are Scatter Laser, Shuriken Cannon, and Star Cannon. Now, if you do go down the road and give it a Sun Cannon, a Heavy Wraith Cannon, and both shoulder cannons, you can creep this model up well over 500 points. My gut feeling at the moment is you probably want to keep it relatively cheap. The Sword and Shield with a single gun, so you can do things like fire and fade or do other little sneaky things, will probably come in at a modest 410, 420 points. If you go into the heavier weapons, then you are going to be creeping up in the high 400s or even low 500s. Speaking of those two main guns, the Heavy Wraith Cannon has been improved. It is now a 36-inch range Heavy D3, Strength 16, minus 4 AP, D3 plus 6 damage, with an unmodified wound roll of 6, inflicting D3 mortal wounds in addition to any normal damage. If you go the dual Heavy Wraith Cannon, you are going to terrify things. Heavy 2d3 at strength 16 means it wounds pretty much everything on 2s. At minus 4 d3 plus 6 damage, this is a vehicle killer and a half. The Sun Cannon has also been significantly improved. It is now a 48-inch range, heavy 2d6, strength 8, minus 3, flat 3 blast weapon. It's now a significantly threatening weapon to even those things that are minus 1 damage. The Wraith Knight has the Strands of Fate ability and Wraithbone form like the others, however it also gains Agile Construct, which gives it a basic 5+ invulnerable save. Now this is great because it brings it in line with other sort of similar Knight profiles, and that it is 3-up armor, 5-up invulnerable, and then it is boosted to 4-up if you change its war gear. It also has a new rule called Unstoppable Revenant. This model is eligible to declare a charge in a turn at which it fell back. Each time this model makes a normal move, advances, or falls back, it can move horizontally over other models, excluding monsters and vehicles, as if they were not there. So it doesn't have fly, but it can kind of move over things without too many difficulties. It should be noted that Unstoppable Revenant doesn't work when it charges, only when it makes a normal move, advances, or falls back. Lastly, it does explode on a 6 when you destroy it, with a 2d6-inch blast range and d6 mortal wounds. It does retain the Wraith Construct and Spirit Host keywords, but it doesn't have core, sadly. I feel like the Wraith Knight, unfortunately, is probably still overpriced. He probably needs to come down to probably something in the range of 360 to 380 in his basic form, which means that the dual cannon version would end up something in the range of 420 to 430, and then the heavy Sun Cannon plus potentially another gun ends up at around the 500 or just shy of 500 points. As soon as it breaks 500 points, I just think he's too expensive. I have seen lists which are talking about running 3 of these alongside an Avatar of Khaine and potentially other monsters, and I think that can be a lot of fun, and it's something I might try out in a casual game, but I don't think the Wraith Knight itself is good enough to do that with. The fact that to get 3 of them will give you access to the Craft World rules is great, but if you're going to take a solo one and a super heavy auxiliary, you are even missing out on the Craft World rules, and that's a bit of a shame. That covers us for today for the Wraiths. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to check out any of the previous episodes, they're all in the playlist below. In the meantime, if you can like and subscribe, that'd mean a lot to us. The next episode, episode 6 in this series, will cover the core of the Codex, which are the Guardians and their support weapons, their characters, and so on. In the meantime, thanks for listening.